Hi students, welcome back to geology. In this next video, we are going to talk about how and where metamorphism happens. So now that we know that heat and pressure causes metamorphism, where exactly is this happening inside the Earth? So your pondering question for this video is going to be, how does plate tectonics create conditions needed for metamorphism? Okay, so plate tectonics, as I mentioned when we talked about it originally, is a unifying theory for a lot of the processes that happen on Earth. If plate tectonics wasn't happening, we wouldn't have the rock cycle, we wouldn't see metamorphism, we wouldn't see as many rocks melt, we wouldn't see sedimentary processes as greatly. So keep in mind, metamorphism is also going to end up being tied to plate tectonics. So when we talk about metamorphism and where it happens, we call those metamorphic settings. It's kind of like a depositional environment, but it's where metamorphism is going to likely happen. So we have a few different types here. We'll go through each of them individually, but to kind of get us off on the right foot, the basic type of metamorphic setting would be burial metamorphism, where rocks are just buried, okay? And these can be buried at depths of more than 2,000 meters in order to start metamorphism. Once they get a little lower, usually there's something else going on, like one of these other settings. But the first step is burial metamorphism. We can also see contact metamorphism, where rocks are changed due to nearby heat, like an intruding magma body. Hydrothermal metamorphism is similar but different, where we see chemical alterations from hot iron-rich water. This generally happens at a divergent plate boundary where magma is upwelling and it's changing the temperature of the water in the ocean. Regional metamorphism occurs where we have mountain belts, where we see subduction zones. Anytime we have converging plate boundaries is where we're going to see regional metamorphism. We also have fault metamorphism, where there is recrystallization through shear stress. So when rocks are basically scraped next to one another, we can see minor amounts of metamorphism between the two. It can change things like the grain size and some really small amounts of recrystallization. And then shock metamorphism is a result of meteorite impacts. So if a meteorite impacts rocks on Earth, it's a high pressure shock event. There's going to be a lot of heat. And so from that, we can get things like shock quartz, which I'll show you in a little bit. So burial metamorphism often happens in sedimentary basins. So as sedimentary rocks are being created, they get deeper and deeper. And the more buried they get, the closer to the metamorphic zone they become. And then they can end up turning into something like a quartz sandstone into a quartzite. So quartzite is a metamorphosed quartz sandstone, which we learned last week. Quartz sandstone is a sedimentary rock. Now, if we add extra heat, like in contact metamorphism, where a magma chamber, an igneous body, is moving its way through the country rock or the existing rock that's there, all of that existing rock that touches the magma chamber can basically be baked and it will have come in contact with that hot body of rock, or molten rock, if you will, and it will metamorphose. Now, this is not going to be a super, super high metamorphic grade because it's really just coming in contact with a hot body of molten rock. And the strongest metamorphism is going to come from anything that's in immediate contact with it. Moving on to hydrothermal metamorphism, this is going to be, like I said, from hot iron-rich water, generally at our divergent plate boundaries, so where two plates are diverging away from each other. Generally, the rock type that's being generated there is basalt. And when basalt experiences hot water, it can metamorphose into serpentinite. Serpentinite is really common in the coast ranges of California, and it allows the San Andreas Fault to slip really easily, for a fun little fact for you. So we see serpentinization of oceanic basalt at hydrothermal metamorphism. Again, we need divergent plate boundaries here where the hot iron-rich water can impact the rocks in this region. Regional metamorphism is where we have collision. So this first example is continental collision. So two continents are colliding. There's a lot of compression that happens here. Remember, this is directed pressure that would give us like foliation, and it'll also give us folded mountain belts like the Alps, the Himalayas, the Appalachian Mountains, and it'll bend the rocks and create that foliated fabric within the metamorphic rock. In a subduction zone, it's a little bit more complex of a regional metamorphism, but to give you some context here, in addition, it has the contact metamorphism location there where the rising magma chamber is coming up. So that's going to be a high temperature, high pressure zone when it's deep. When it's closer to the surface, it'll be high temperature, low pressure zone. Right at the trench where the two are meeting, it's going to be low temperature, high pressure. And you're going to get a lot of physical alteration there because of all of the pressure. We're going to get a lot of foliated rocks. To give you another look at what this might look like here, it shows you the subducting oceanic plate beneath the continental plate there. And at depth, where the magma is rising from the mantle, you have high temperature, high pressure metamorphism. So it's going to be our highest grade metamorphic setting. At the trench, you have low temperature because there's not a lot of extra heat there. There's just heat from the friction of the two plates colliding. And then you have a high pressure metamorphism because the plates are colliding. There's a lot of extra pressure there. And then higher up in the continental crust where the magma is upwelling, you would have high temperature from the magma, but low pressure metamorphism because it's just buried. There's no additional pressure being applied there. So that's regional metamorphism. Fault metamorphism generally happens near the surface where faults are rupturing. And so any kind of brittle material will break and it'll create kind of this, what we call rock flour. It is kind of like flour. It's ground up rock in these small particles that are in between the two rocks that have separated. And this creates things like these big fault breccias, which is the upper right-hand photo there, that is formed from all of these pieces of rock. So those black pieces would have been the rock flour, essentially, and it creates this large-scale breccia that is from the faulting, and so breaking up the rock and then re-solidifying. And we also get things like mylonites, which can form in a deeper fault zone. And then we have shock metamorphism, which is a result of very high pressures. So we have a meteorite impacting Earth, and it can create this really interesting deformation feature, which we call shock laminae. It's a narrow planes of glassy material that have distinct orientations found in silicate mineral grains. So this would be like quartz. Shocked quartz has a planar deformation. This is a microscopic view of what shocked quartz would look like. This is basically quartz after a meteorite impact. So with that, we also want to talk about metamorphic mineralogy. So where these things are forming depends on their pressure, temperature, conditions, right? So we've talked about that a couple of times, but we also want to look at, when we're looking at a hand specimen, what minerals are we seeing? So some minerals are found in lots of different variations of temperatures, but others not so much. Some are very specific narrow regions. So like quartz, for example, we can find all the way from low grade to high grade, but garnet, we're going to see in kind of intermediate to high grade. Silmonite, we're going to see in high grade. So depending on the minerals that you're seeing in the rock, it will also inform what grade of metamorphism we're looking at, what temperature conditions were likely there to cause these minerals to form. All right, that gets us into metamorphic grades and facies. So this, again, depends on the pressure, temperature conditions, and those depend on the depth. So the farther we go into the earth, the temperature and the pressure are going to increase, and it's going to increase our grade of metamorphism. So if you look at the left-hand side there, the desktop shows you that low-grade metamorphic rocks form at a lower pressure, lower depth, lower temperature, and our high-grade metamorphic rocks form at a higher pressure, higher depth, higher temperature. Okay, moving over to the right, these are our metamorphic facies, and they basically separate out mineral assemblages. So there's different assemblages of metamorphic rocks, and based on the minerals that we find in them, we group them together. So for example, hornfels is formed at a really shallow depth from burial metamorphism, and so we don't see a lot of high-grade metamorphic change in these rocks from what they originally were. And then on the contrary, eclogites form really deep in the earth, really high pressures and relatively high temperatures, and so they're one of our highest grade metamorphic rocks. And a really cool thing that I would like to show is this eclogite that I collected from the Russian River. I know it's going to be really hard to see on camera, but it's intermixed with some garnets and some blue schist. And this is going to be something that forms in regional metamorphism or subduction zones. It formed off the coast of California when the Farallon plate subducted beneath North America, and it was re-exhumed by tectonics and erosion so that we could see it at the surface. And this is a very unique sample that you wouldn't see really anywhere else. California is very unique to show something that came from upwards of 40 kilometers at depth at the surface. So just a little tidbit for you there. All right, and then when we're looking at our foliated metamorphic rocks, which we'll get even further into identification in the next video, we have something called the Barrovian sequence. And this is the progression of specific minerals through a sequential grading process, essentially. So as these rocks are buried deeper and deeper, experience more metamorphism, we go from slate to phyllite to schist and gneiss, and they progress. Okay, so this is the Barrovian sequence, slate being the lowest grade metamorphic rock, and gneiss being the highest grade metamorphic rock of the sequence. All right, to bring us back to the summary, we talked about a lot of things, but in short, we talked about our basic metamorphic settings: burial, hydrothermal, contact, regional. We also discussed some special settings like fault and shock metamorphism. And in your notes, I would like you to write down why are metamorphic rocks commonly found in mountain belts. So kind of bringing it back to that plate tectonics piece. Go ahead and write that down in your notes, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.